The following announcement has been paid for by Pro Wrestling Culture.
Dummy! Yeah!
Be watching there. It's going to be showtime, and tune in to the podcast Pro Wrestling Culture because it's always showtime there from the Stinger.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in a new brand episode of Pro Wrestling Culture. My name is Aldo Fiadone, and here with me, the special guest of the evening, former ECW World Champion, ladies and gentlemen, just incredible. Hi, Justin. How are we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, my friend?
Very, very good. Right now, very, very good. This is a spectacular and awesome moment for me and for this podcast, Pro Wrestling Culture. Thank you very much for coming here on PWC. Absolutely.
Wow.
So,
I'm very happy.
Justin,
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. This is my first question. Talking about your beginnings, your first run as a wrestler was 30 years ago for World Wrestling Federation, I think, aka WWE right now, with the ring name of PJ Walker. You wrestled stars and legends like Lex Luger on Monday Night Raw, Yokozuna, The Undertaker on WWF Superstars, Diesel, aka Kevin Nash, the Steiner Brothers, Jeff Jarrett, Bam Bam Bigelow, all of them during your first year in the company. So, at that time, what do you feel about that privilege for a young guy to work with people like them?
It was amazing. I mean, I think I was 19 years old, 20 years old, and I almost couldn't believe it. These are people I really grew up watching, and at such a young age, getting to work with so many legends, like you said, it was just fantastic, and they were so nice to me. So, that's one thing I was always, in those days, man, wrestling, there was still a little kayfabe. It wasn't like it is today. There's no internet, so it was different. You had to really earn your reputation as a good performer, a good worker. But I showed respect and I did the best I could, and everybody was so kind, and I learned so much. And I started to establish some friendships in the company, and also a good reputation of, hey, he's a good kid, he's solid in the ring, and so yeah, it was amazing, unbelievable.
Amazing, unbelievable moment, in particular for you, because after that, in 1994, you did your first match in World Championship Wrestling in WCW with Randy Hogan against the Nasty Boys.
Right.
Why your run in WCW didn't work well?
Well, I just at that time, we weren't contracted. I was just we call, back in the day, used to call them jobbers, like job guys, extras. So you could really go anywhere. And at that time, I was friends with I don't know if you remember him, Paul Roma. He used to be one of the Four Horsemen in WCW back in the 90s. And he just, one day, he lived in Connecticut where I live. And he was like, if you want to come down to Orlando, where they were doing the tapings, and make a couple of bucks. So I just went down there one time just to kind of, see what it was and how it was, So it wasn't anything serious. It was just like a bit of experience, to be honest.
But probably the most big and grateful experience for you is in Extreme Championship Wrestling? Because this is my third question. It's 1997, and since that time to 2001, you were a big part of ECW, probably during the shining and brightest time for the entire company.
Sure.
You won many titles there, in particular the World Tag Team Championship 2 times with another legends of this business like Lance Storm. Like the Impact Players was your team, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the top of the mountain for your career there was the ECW World Heavyweight Championship. You won the title against the hardcore legend Tommy Dreamer on the SummerSlam 2000, and you defended it many times during the period of your title run against people like Raven, Lance Storm, Jerry Lynn, Sandman, Tajiri, Tommy Dreamer, Kid Cash, Steve Corino. And on Anarchy Rules, I think Jerry Lynn defeated you in an awesome one-on-one.
Yes.
Jerry Lynn is another chapter of my questions after after that. So, how are you proud for that championship run? And who is the contender that you prefer to wrestle at that time? And what ECW means for your career until this moment?
I would say my favorite and probably my best opponent, challenger, would have been Jerry Lynn, to be honest. He was my first match. We were each other's first match in ECW when we started in 1997. We both debuted. I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe we debuted together against each other in 1997 October, and at the ECW arena, and I won that match. And throughout the years, we always had great chemistry and great matches. So it was a beautiful dance every time Jerry Lynn and I got in the ring and wrestled each other. I mean, he was a great guy, good friend. To this day, I still speak with Jerry. Just amazing chemistry, great matches. And we really pushed the bar of what I thought was, a bit of extreme style wrestling, but also some high flying, because Jerry's a high flyer and a technical wrestler as well. And, it was, I would definitely have to say that Jerry Lynn was my favorite and probably my best opponent. And the legacy of ECW and especially being the world champion meant the world to me. I mean, if you're going back to the year 2000, we're in the Attitude Era. WCW has Monday Nitro. WWE has Monday Night Raw, all doing great big ratings numbers and stuff like that. And then there's ECW. Absolutely. We were another big company doing great things. And we were almost like punk rock in wrestling. We were like that cool underground thing. And to be part of that at such an important time in the business and to be the champion, I remember in 2000, I believe I was Pro Wrestling Illustrated has their top 500 wrestlers in the world. And that year I was number 6. And I know it's a work. It's not a real list.
Yeah, in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated, right?
But still, like the names I was in there with, it was guys like, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Kurt Angle, Absolutely. The Undertaker, The Rock. It was just, I couldn't believe I was in that company. So it meant the world to me. And working with Paul Heyman as well, I learned so much,
And in this moment, we can see all of the drama, all of the influence that ECW gave to the wrestling business, because WWE, All Elite Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, they are another form of ECW in their little work.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Your last run in WWE was in 2006 during the rebranding of ECW. The rebranding of ECW as a tiered roster for the company. You wrestled people like Kurt Angle, Sandman once again, Dreamer once again, Sabu, Paul Mahoney, and CM Punk in 2 different times. All of us knows that the reborn of ECW wasn't a success, but a couple of stars like Punk have managed to succeed over time, and you were a part of that success. So, how are you proud to work with people who needed also you to achieve that success?
I was happy that it happened. I honestly thought, because when we did the first pay-per-view back, One Night Stand, it was very well. I mean, it was an amazing. I mean, if you've seen the show, it's a great show, and it really
I
had
have the DVD of that show. Was
it's a
fantastic.
beautiful show. It's a beautiful show, and it really captured ECW and the spirit of ECW. The problem with that is, what made ECW so special was we were the underdogs, and we were always fighting against the corporate media, like the machine, the corporate machine, the big guy. And now we're part of the machine. And we're no longer the rebel company where we starting to have restrictions, and it's Vince's company, Vince McMahon's company. So even though the spirit, the first one was great, when we started the rebrand, there were some good things, like you said. Me wrestling CM Punk, I was CM Punk's first match in the WWE. And we had a nice match. I really liked it working with him. We wrestled twice, as a matter of fact, like you said. I think he was the biggest success coming out of that brand. But it is what it is, and but unfortunately, it was doomed to fail. They weren't paying us very well. I mean, it was just not a great situation for the actual performers. So for me, it was short-lived, because I was making very little money, and to be on the road and wrestling for the third brand I was losing money, believe it or not. Yeah, and it was so I ended up quitting at the end of 2006, around Christmas. I don't remember, but very quickly after. I think I stayed there for maybe 5 months or so, and then whatever it was. But and it's a shame too.
Probably before December to Dismember, the last pay-per-view of the company.
I wasn't there. Yeah, I wasn't at that one. And that was, again, that was like the sign of, it's like, I'm an ECW original. I was a former world champion. I was pretty much one of the top guys in the company, and I'm not even on their first pay-per-view. So, I kind of knew where that was going. So,
yeah. You did many comeback in WWE. One of them was in 2001 and 2002, when you won for 8 time the Hardcore Championship. I know the Hardcore Championship is a little different from any other championship, not only in WWE but in wrestling in general. But for the record, you held it for 8 times, and I think it was a privilege, in particular for a former ECW World Champion like you. What do you think about that multiple title run and that time in the company?
I like, it was, again, it wasn't the greatest time for me in the company, but it wasn't bad. And I know the Hardcore title, like you said, wasn't always the most serious title, but still, for me, just the name, having it be the Hardcore title, and I'm in the record books, right? So I'll forever be known as the 8-time WWE Hardcore Champion. I know it sounds corny. I know it sounds like, a little corny, but
it sounds good. It sounds good.
It sounds good. Yeah. So it is what it is, and that's it is part of the history. So I'm happy to have it.
Yeah. Okay, I want to mention another, in my opinion, another great chapter for your career, and it was in TNA. Now we know TNA like Impact Wrestling, and that run was in 2003. You wrestled many of your friends from ECW, And I remember the Anarchy in the Asylum Battle Royale, the Asylum years of weekly
Yep.
pay-per-views of TNA. But most importantly, your feud with Jerry Lynn.
Yes.
First with a single match, with lights out match, chain match, and last man standing match. You were an undeniable part for the Asylum days of TNA. Over, you're proud for that, and most importantly, what is your biggest memory of that time there and that feud against one of your biggest friend in the ring,
Yes.
Jerry Lynn?
I mean, it was important for me because in 2000 and I forget the dates, but I think in 2001, 2002, I would say, whatever the year was, I think it was 2001. If you remember, both WCW and ECW went out of business. So we went from having 3 wrestling companies employing hundreds of wrestlers, now employing very few. Hundreds of guys lost their jobs. I was lucky enough to have one during the X Factor days. So when I got fired for X Factor, and after the hardcore title stuff, in 2003, I went to Japan to wrestle for All Japan Pro Wrestling for a little bit. And when I came back, TNA had started. Jeff Jarrett had started, and Jerry Jarrett, his father, started this new thing. And it was very important for the wrestling business. You know what I mean? Because there was a big opening for another promotion, because there was really nobody other than the WWE. And it became very difficult because, there's so many guys out there needing the work. So to me, it was very important. And I was blessed and fortunate to have this opportunity in TNA. Even though it was very young, the pay was not good at all. I think I was getting $500 a show once a week, which, again, I mean, it's not horrible, but still, it's like a regular job, and not even, because they don't pay your hotel, they don't pay your expenses for food, so it was very little money. But I got to be part of something, and especially working with Jerry Lynn. Those matches, if you go back, and especially the I think it was the Lights Out match. I don't know, or Last Man Standing. Might have been the Last Man Standing. I mean, that was one of the best matches Jerry and I ever had. The chain match was also very good. I mean,
I agree.
we really had a great showing and a great presentation, and I'm so proud of that. Unfortunately, I don't know how many people have ever really watched them, but I would hold that up as high as some of the ECW stuff. I mean, it was really great stuff. So I'm very, very proud of that.
I think many people watch YouTube because the Asylum years until this day was probably the first big part of TNA history after 21 years of undeniable history. Absolutely. And that feud was fantastic.
Yes, it was.
Absolutely.
He was great. Jerry Lynn's one of the best.
Yeah.
Jerry's one of the
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yes. But after all of these matches, titles, rivalry, etc., why Just Incredible didn't work in a major company right now? Because you have all of the character to work in a company like WWE or Elite or Impact.
I just after 2006, 2000, the older I got, I think the more I started to realize I need to do something else with my life. I just didn't see a lot of, again, there was no AEW, right? This is where, I mean, AEW, whether you like them or not, is so important to the wrestling business because they have the money and so many contracts. But it was time for me to stop focusing on professional wrestling. It was more of a personal thing. I mean, I still love the business. But there was the opportunities I felt weren't there. I was certainly burned out. I also had some personal issues with substance abuse. And I just, I needed time to just do something else, and work in a different field, work in the real world. Because again, I was 30 some, I don't even remember the age, but I was probably 34, 35, never had a real job. So I don't have any experience in
Okay.
the real world, and you have to prepare for
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I didn't have the pleasure of making $1 million a year like a lot of the guys do. So, I had to go out there and start to gain experience in the real world. And, I went to culinary school to learn how to be a chef. Currently, I still, my full-time job, I work in a kitchen. I work as a chef. That's what I do for an Italian restaurant close to my house here, fine dining
Okay.
establishment. And I just, I just thought it was kind of time, because I have a family. I have 3 kids. All of them, 2 of them have graduated college. One still lives with me. He's 16. So I had
Congratulations.
a family. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I had a family, I had a family to think
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
And it was maybe time to, a lot of my family and friends was like, you had a good run in wrestling. Maybe it's time to start to change your perspective and your goals. And after a while, that's what I did.
But sorry for my last question. But if you have the opportunity, if you uh, change your goals, okay, there is one place when you want to work in this moment for a wrestling business. I said to you in private chat days ago about the game changer wrestling because
Yes.
GCW
Yes.
probably is the most near company to the original Extreme Championship Wrestling. But
Sure.
if the situation is different, was different, there is a place where you want to work in this moment.
I mean, I did one show when Game Changer Wrestling GCW came to my hometown in Connecticut. I did a little run in. I came in, I hit a couple people with the kendo stick, and had a little, did a little promo, and it went over well. But they have their own thing. I'm 50 years old and I'm overweight now. I don't think I'm in wrestling shape. But if there was a place, what I would like to do, I would love to be a producer or an A, whatever they
Yeah.
call it, but I would love to work behind the scenes like Jerry Lynn does in AEW. But again, I don't
Okay.
really, those, it's not, I think it's harder than you think. It's not like you have, I don't have Tony Khan's number on speed dial. And, it's uncomfortable to call Jerry or anybody like that and be like, hey, by the way, can you help me out? So
Tony
yeah,
is a social guy, so I think if you tweet anytime
I've tried to
to
get a hold
him,
of him. I tried to get a hold of him once and never
okay,
heard back. So it is what it is. But you never say never.
absolutely, absolutely. So, Justin, there is any funny story you want to share with all of pro wrestling culture public, all of pro wrestling culture fans? You lived during your career inside or outside a wrestling ring? About
Oh
obviously about wrestling.
yeah, no. God, I mean, I just remember. I'll tell you, it's not even that funny, but I don't have a lot. I'm not a great storyteller with this stuff, but I
Okay.
remember when I was Aldo Montoya, the Portuguese Man of War
Yeah,
in
Aldo Montoya. Yeah.
WWF in like '95. I got to wrestle Stone Cold when he was first starting his run with the WWE. I don't think he was in Stone Cold yet. I think it was the Ringmaster, and we got to wrestle a lot on the East Coast at house shows. So we would, anytime, every night would be different. I would come up to him, and he was really cool. We're still friends. I've been on the podcast a couple of times in the early days, and I love Steve to death. And I'd be like, Steve, what are we doing? And God damn it, kid, don't worry, we'll call it in the ring. So some nights we'd go 5 minutes. It'd be literally like, he'd talk some shit on the microphone, give me a kick stunner. Other nights we'd go 15 minutes and have a full on wrestling match. And I remember one time I had Jake. I was doing a gimmick where Jake the Snake Roberts was my manager, and he was on the outside, and Steve gave me, and I'm not even, I wish there was a video of this. I don't think there is on YouTube because it was a house show, but he gave me 15 vertical suplexes in a row as a rib, as a joke. And every time he would do one, he would go to Jake, "You dare me to do it one more time, Jake? Come on, I'm gonna kill this guy." And Jake's like, "No, don't do it." Like, but he's telling him, "Go ahead, do it." You know, like they're just fucking with me. And Steve would just keep going and being funny and doing Steve, you know, and talking shit to me. And there we go, one more. And he just kept going to the point where the fans and even he started laughing. It was just a funny thing. And Steve was the best like that. So he was always ribbing in the ring. So that's one, you know, that's a clean hole that I could remember.
So that was funny, but not for your back, probably.
No, it was, but the thing was, it wasn't bad because we were wrestling in these rings especially the specific ring we had in the WWE for smaller venues. It was a summer tour we were doing, was like a trampoline. It was super soft. Okay. And we would bounce. So like, you know, he wasn't being a jerk about it. It was like a super easy, like we could have done it all night and we would have been fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it was just funny stuff. And we just had a blast. We just kept letting the fans laughed with it too. And that was the start of him getting that persona and kind of that humor in his wrestling without, you know, trying. You know, it's like his way of becoming his start to becoming Stone Cold was with me, you know, in a lot of ways, because he would cut funny promos and do some funny shit, and we just had a blast.
Okay, that's all. Justin, thank you very much for your time, for this conversation. Absolutely, that was a privilege because this is the first time when I meet an ECW World Champion, a former ECW World Champion, for an interview. So that was fantastic. Thank you for all of your time. Absolutely. I hope you're the best. I wish you I hope for you the best. I wish you the best for your career and for the real life that you mentioned before.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. And I hope to talk to you somewhere down the line, my friend. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Justin, once again. And thank you to all of the listeners of Pro Wrestling Culture. Bye.